Getting the speeds of your trains right can be a bit of a dilemma, but in this video I'll show you how to do it for free, how to do it at a little expense, how to do it at moderate expense, and of course at a huge expense. Hi, welcome back to Chadwick Model Railway. I'm Charlie, and in this video it doesn't matter what scale you model, or in fact if it's DC or DCC, there should be something for everyone. So let's start at the cheap end. Now, to carry out this little test, I remain grateful to the Elgin Model Railway Club because on their website I've found this table. And looking a little closer, if you look down the left hand side, you'll see it refers to speed in miles per hour. And then if you just go down to 60, in the second column it's times per scale mile in seconds. And if you read across from the speed 60, it obviously goes into 60 seconds. That's because obviously if your train in reality is doing 60 miles an hour, you will do a mile a minute, and a minute is obviously 60 seconds. So that's how it is in reality. Now, moving along the top, there's time to travel 1 foot, time to travel 6 foot, and time to travel 75 foot, depending on your layout. And then also underneath there, the scales of O gauge, double O and N. Now I'm going to go for the middle option, which is time to travel 6 foot in double O scale. So these are the sort of times, anything from 31 seconds down to 3.1 seconds is what I'm looking for. So what hardware have I got? Well, I've got a stopwatch, although any modern mobile phone you can go into the watch area and there should be a stopwatch in there. I've measured out with my trusty Stanley tape measure 6 foot, and at the 6 foot mark hopefully you can see that I've put a little Dayglow sticker at 72 inches. Now if we whistle down the other end of this tape measure, hopefully you can see there's the corresponding mark at the 6 foot at the end. So there we are, 72 inches, 6 foot start to finish. So nothing could be more simple, really, could it? The train comes alongside the first Dayglow sticker, I start the stopwatch. When it gets to the second one, I stop the stopwatch and then stop the loco before it goes off the end of the board. What could possibly go wrong? And then we will then look at the time on the stopwatch and compare it to that on the table, and then we'll figure out what speed it was doing and what speed we actually want it to do. Does it look right or does it not? If you're a DC modeler, this is the time you might start to put a pencil mark on your DC controller, or if you're a DCC modeler, then you might want to start messing with CVs to get a maximum speed so you can't necessarily exceed it. So let's give it a go and see how we get on. So she's coming across the viaduct now. And we start. And stop. and that was in 8.84 seconds. So looking at the Elgin Model Railways table, 8.84 seconds is double O gauge, 6 foot, is somewhere between 30 and 40 miles an hour. So clearly with this class 50 pulling 8 coaches, that isn't sufficient. So I shall reverse this back down the helix and we'll give it another go. A little more adventurous this time, it's on full power. Coming over the viaduct and stand by, start, and stop. And this time we have 6.65 seconds. Which according to our table is roughly 50 miles an hour. Now that's much more respectable. Of course in reality this train can do 100, but I think that is a reasonable speed to do through there. I don't really want it going any slower if it was a through passenger express. Having said that, I'm not too sure I want it going any faster. It can't go any faster. I mean, this Hornby Class 50 is a full chap. So what I won't be doing is I won't be lowering, I think CV5, the VMAX CV, to limit it. I think it's pulling those 8 coaches is about the end of its power. For DC modelers, this is my old Duet, and it has segments of 5 from 0 up to full power. So for your unfitted freight you might run around on 2, whereas obviously your express passengers might go around on 4, and you would know that you could leave it on that setting whilst you're conducting business on another train, whilst that one's on a more realistic speed. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and if you hit the little bell icon and go for all, then you get a notification every time I release a new video. Now before we go on to other measuring devices, I thought I'd switch trains, so I'm going to use this reverse livery Pullman rather than the Class 50 with 8 coaches, because it clearly does lack a bit of power, whereas this thing here goes like stink. It does, but then it's got 2 power cars and there's only 4 coaches between them, so it will get a wiggle on. It's got Zimo chips in and they are unrestricted, so this thing will throw itself straight off the helix, given half the chance. So I'm going to bring it up at speed step 50 of 99, and I know that is considerably quicker than that Hornby Class 50 goes. So I should put it back on the helix, start it up, bring it up, and we'll measure this one, and then we'll move on to the other devices. Interesting. One other thing that's worth a mention is this little device here, because with this I can turn the lights off and I can also turn the railway off. So if this Pullman comes through a little on the quick side, which it usually does, I can just hit off for button C, off for channel C, and it will quickly stop. The other end of this layout, there's a set of points there that just end, so I really can't take the risk of this one ploughing in. After all, it's only the most expensive loco train on the layout. So let's get on with it. I shall start her up and then put her on speed step 50 and await her hasty arrival. Now, and stopping now, and shut the railway down. 4.7 seconds this time. So how does that work out on the Elgin chart? 4.7 seconds is just under a scale speed of 70 miles an hour. So we'll stick with those settings for the next measuring devices. A couple of weeks ago, I received a package from a gentleman by the name of Bob Sims, and Bob, I'm extremely grateful for this. And this is a homemade kit for measuring train speed using 2 infrared detectors. And what we have appears to be a control unit with an LED readout. There was a PDF enclosed with the emails, and the instructions on how he's built it, I will leave a link in the show more tabs down below, and a bag of bits, which is basically the sensors and some cable. So let's fit this to the layout and see how we get on. Well, here we are, all set up in accordance with Bob's instructions. So we have the little control box with a low DC power supply. I think it has to be between 5 and 9 volts. I think that's an 8. And then we've got the 2 sensor cables plugging into a couple of connectors here, and then the sensors go out to the track. There's an adjustment potentiometer there, can't say that with my teeth in. There's a potentiometer on both of them just in case you need to adjust it because of your ambient light. Anyway, it's a bit of a lash up. I've just sort of screwed them to the baseboard, and we'll run the Pullman on the usual track. Now I'll just zoom you in a little bit on this control box so we can see as I run my hand across the sensors. So I'm coming across the first sensor and then the second sensor. And we have a readout there of 69.48 miles an hour. Well, that all seems quite straightforward. And as before, I'm going to bring up the reverse livery Pullman from the helix across the viaduct straight through here. But I will also record the speed on the stopwatch so I can go to the Elgin chart and then do a comparison on Bob's piece of equipment compared to my stopwatch. So the Pullman's coming back up now on speed step 50, and we'll let Bob's machine do the monitoring, but also the stopwatch. Starting, stopping, and kill the layout. 49.74 on Bob's, but there's 4.78 on the stopwatch. So there's going to be uncertainty in the camp now, because Bob's was 49.74. Shall we just call that 50? And 4.78 going to the tables will give you almost exactly 65 miles an hour. Shocking. We've got a 15 mile an hour error. So I think the best thing we can do is get out yet another system. Now we're starting to step into the realms of money. Obviously my little system of a tape measure and a stopwatch was free. Bob Sims' setup, though probably needs a little bit of calibration, I think was under £10 for the components that he used. But what can you buy that's straight off the shelf? Well, thanks to the guys down at DCC Train Automation, I have this. It's another LED type speedometer readout. This is made by DRM. It's an SPC 100 and retails at £39.95. Again, similar to Bob's, it's got an LED readout. So I'll unpackage this, read through the instructions and connect it up and give it a bash. Well, here we have the little device. I've put the 4 little legs on it. I've peeled off the plastic protector from the screen. And then this is a standard old mobile phone, or to me it's a camera fitting USB lead which supplies 5 volts DC. And then if we zoom in a little bit, I turn the house lights down, hopefully you can see some of this, and it says select N or HO00. So I click the last button and select HO00, and then again I select 00, which is this button, and then hopefully we should be good to go. And as you can see, it says detect speed. So now we need to run something by it. So if I send a little coach past it and see what it says. 29.3 miles per hour. And that doesn't seem inaccurate to me, to be perfectly honest. Let's do it a little bit slower, see if it works from the other direction. 19 miles an hour. Seems quite sensible. Right, let's set it all up along with Bob's detector and my stopwatch and see what the results are with all three running at the same time. Well, it's now the following morning, we're all ready to go again. I've installed the DRM, that's all ready to go, and regarding Bob's two sensors, I've moved them. They're still a metre apart, but I've moved them along the railway a little bit to see if we get a better reading. So we're going to bring up the Pullman from the helix straight across the viaduct and all that sort of blah, and I will measure on the stopwatch and on the DRM and on Bob's, and we'll see what these results give us today. It's so exciting. $29.65, 97.65. Well, the results are in, and you'll be pleased to know that I didn't do it just the once. I've done it 3 or 4 times, and the results are quite consistent. So what have we got? Well, in third place at 97 miles per hour was the DRM SPC 100. It was consistently about a third over the top, you know, but hey, there we go. And in second place, there isn't a second place because it's joint first place between Bob's little construction and of course me on the stopwatch. Now me on the stopwatch is a bit of a odd dodgy one really, because you know I press the button on the orange dots, but both of these come in at 65 miles an hour. So all we can do is turn around and say, yeah, these are true. The stopwatch, there's obviously an element of error because, you know, when I press the button twice and you get the time, but it's consistently right. It's not exactly difficult to do, but Bob's now today works absolutely brilliantly, and it's on the button 100%. So what should you do out of these 3 systems? Well, clearly the stopwatch and a tape measure is free. What a good idea. Bob's is brilliant. I'll try to get all the information off Bob. He's away at the moment. I've been emailing because of the snag I had yesterday. But today it works brilliantly, and the great thing about it is that I can install one pickup, let's say coming out of the helix, and then the other pickup I'll perhaps put it into a little railway hut or whatever, and the readout then I can put behind a panel, which takes us on to the DRM SPC 100. The problem with it is, besides it's reading 30% over the top, is that every time you turn it on, you have to press the selector buttons for the scale, i.e. N or HO, press that one, HO or00, press that one, and then it's good to go. It's not really good to go, is it? Because it overreads by 30%. So they're available for £40, well, $39.99 from DCC Train Automation. And should you buy the DRM SPC 100, I'll leave that decision with you. Right, moving on. Where do we go from here? Well, now we get into the realms of very expensive. Now, this little beastie is a Zeller rolling road, Zeller being Z-E-L-L-E-R, and quite straightforward. You buy them and it comes with 7 of these little wheel bogies. So obviously you can plonk your engine on there, and if you power it through the ends here, just plug a couple of cables in. And AC or DC, and you can run your locomotives in, you can do fault finding on the rolling road, and I like it. It's a pretty nifty bit of kit. But this is something called a Zeller Speed Cat, and up at the other end here, and hopefully you can see this tiny wheel turning, and in there is a pickup which measures the speed that the wheels are travelling round, which goes into this little gizmo, this little box of electronics, and then that gets transmitted into the software that you install on your PC. These things are quite expensive. Now, I was fortunate enough, I bought it from a deceased, or we call it a deceased account, let's say. The gentleman had died and the stuff was being sold on by his widow, and I bought the rolling road along with the Speed Cat and along with my ESU programmer. But by talking about expense, so how much does this stuff cost? Well, the rolling road itself with 7 of these is £75. If you want any additional sort of bogies, they're £8.50 each, and the SpeedCat device itself is a further £75. So you're looking at 150, 160 quid just to equip yourself out with this. But let's put it and connect it all up and see what it does. Well, here we are with my little HiMech there, sat on the rolling road with the SpeedCat attached. As you can see, it leans over on special chocks to make sure you get a good bearing of the wheel against the SpeedCat pickup. And then here on the desktop now, we've got my lock programmer software and the SpeedCat Plus window. And as you can see here, I select 00. I imagine that says start and stop. Well, I've pressed start already, and I've set it miles per hour, and I haven't got the faintest idea what this means, but I'm sure hopefully somebody who's watching this video can leave it in the comments below, because my German is next to nothing, I'm afraid. Right, so if I turn on my HiMech and bring the speed up, then hopefully you probably can hear it in the background, and as you can see, the SpeedCat starts to indicate its mileage in miles per hour. So if I bring it up a bit further, now if you were a DC modeler, this really wouldn't matter, because you wouldn't use this lock sound window. You would just power the rolling road from DC, and you would still get this window. It's nothing to do with DCC. But of course, having DCC now, we can do some clever things, because if I turn this up to full chat, and I know for a matter of fact that an unfitted freight should only be doing 30 miles an hour, and this is up into the 60s, which is probably, you know, a realistic speed for this loco. But by adjusting the CVs down, you can limit the amount of speed that this loco can perform. And then you can go into speed graphs and everything else. And obviously, if you're really heavily embedded into DCC and block detection and all this blah, then this information can be used for speed profiling to go into iTrain and Train Controller. So that's the general gist of it. It's a cracking piece of kit. But its usefulness to the general railway modeler is probably quite slim. So we'll calm it down and bring it back, press stop, and there we are. Well, hopefully you found that a little bit interesting. Thanks to Jim at Hover Motion. Jim, thank you very much indeed. He's the only guy that I could find on the internet in English that does anything to do with the Zella SpeedCat, and I am most grateful, as I am to Bob, for his system. This is great. This has got some mileage. I will accrue the information and drop it into the comments below. If you're an early viewer of the channel and it's not there, then please come back, because once I get all the information in, I will furnish it into the comment section to make sure we're all good to go. Now, you may realise that I also do some filming and editing for McKinley Railway. That's owned by David Townend down on the south coast, and it's an incredible piece of engineering, really. And as the COVID system comes to an end, I've been down there this week, Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday, filming, and we've hopefully got 6 videos in the bag. The first video will be released on Saturday lunchtime, and I would invite you to check it out and perhaps subscribe to the channel. It really is a magnificent development, and there's a lot more to go, and there's loads to learn there, whether it just be from sort of how-tos or whatever, or just to be sitting in awe of what's really going on and how a layout develops with multiple operators. And I think he can manage 12 separate operators in different locations, different stations and goods yards and computers and all this kind of blah. It really is an incredible piece of engineering. So there we are. So it's time to wrap up, and I would like to thank people who donate to the channel. I really appreciate your support, and without you I couldn't do. And if you'd like to become a patron, because these are the people that are the backbone of the channel, then there should be a button there. If you haven't subscribed, please do so here, and there will be a video here and here, and there will be links to McKinley. I'll see you in 2 weeks' time when we're looking into signals. Stick around. Thank you lot. Take care. Bye-bye.